Hi, everybody. I was just watching, what's this gentleman's name? Uh, Dr. G explains. Let's see, there. Uh, so I don't know exactly what his name is, but that's his YouTube. And he's very informative he's reading through the Epstein files. Excuse me, very formative about a lot of the things. All of you people who are reading through all of these things and posting them and making sense, and putting in them in order. Because, that's one of the problems in the court system that I saw with my divorce was this has got to be, there's absolutely no reason that this is not, digital, and that you just don't have all of this. Every time there's some sort of filing, you have all of these repeats of all of these papers, and it becomes this whole huge mess. Um, and needs a good filing system because a lot of it is just repeat. So that's kind of, in terms of administrative stuff is, and okay, they've taken advantage of that in releasing the Epstein files. It's like, you know, taking a huge file in the older days and just throwing it out on the streets, and everybody's got to scramble around and pick it up and try and put it back into sequence. So anyway, but he's going on about Prince Andrew and this, what do they call it? Sensitive information, trade secrets, to Jeffrey Epstein, then who forwarded it on to. These are not trade secrets. These reports, my lord. One of my jobs at the IMF was overseeing one of these inboxes for the departments. And then I'd have to go through the reports, redirect to all of the different people who, if it's on this one subject, for example, my favorite was, women's rights. I'm working on women's rights, but all of the bullshit out there is the feminist bullshit. Even UN women, I want to see them in court. So even at the international level, they've gone completely woke. It's the feminist and the minoritist, and that within the international community, and that people are like, well, what is the difference between Trump getting in now? We're at the same, we're in the same boat. Yeah, there's a lot of problems that we would have seen with Kamala Harris, but oh Lord, no, we missed a bullet to the head with that one. One of the most important things I would say is, when he came in, he said this bullshit of he, she, it, whatever. No, there's a woman and then there's a man. Yes, we do have occasionally people, this is a phenomena. I remember I was even reading about some king who had that both genitalia, and it is a very rare anomaly. Lady Colin Campbell claims that she had that. Apparently, I was told that no, she had a sex change operation and she's just covering it up. So that is what everybody else is born. That's what they look at. Do they have a penis or a vagina? This has been going on for a very long time. Long before we knew how to read, write, or any of that stuff. So, yeah. And we are not, this goes back to 101, and this goes back to our education in our schools and biology. Like, you have, uh, reproductive, most of what we have is sexual, a male and a female. Now you do have some animals that can reproduce by themselves. That's not something that we should aspire to. You know, God made us, and let's just leave nature alone in that department, please. And this is kind of also where the concern with all of the Epstein stuff comes in. I mean, this is really, it is playing God with all the genetics and any of the stuff that's going on does need to be done in open and pass through Congress and have the people oversight on it. I mean, there's obviously, I mean, there's some sick cannibalism, sacrificial stuff. You're, I mean, there's Nicole Kidman and her father, and this is murder that Nicole Kidman was present to. Um, I don't believe she, you know, participated in the act. But anyway, yeah, this is very, very serious, and it does have a lot to do with the, you know, the missing children at the border. This is Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nevada, Utah. Yeah, so all of that region is this you know needs to be taken seriously, and trade secrets. As I say, excuse me, I got off subject. So like trade secrets, this job at the IMF, I had to redistribute the different, you know, reports and all of this. I mean, it would come in all the time, confidential, highly confidential, you know, whatever. They had all of these different words, and I just laughed at these guys. I was like, you guys, you do know that the mailbox, this group mailbox that I get into, like anybody in the fund or anybody in the department, because I think you would have had to been in the department, maybe with the secret. I said, but anybody in the department can just go in there and get any of these things, and any of these girls or, you know, anybody you have working in here can take it and send it off anywhere they want. And also, you guys are bullshitting everybody. This isn't confidential. I'm reading all of these reports. I mean, after I finished with studying what was going on in family courts, I'm at the IMF and I start looking at the international. I mean, I worked in the finance, my global expat stuff. This is all about globalization. So, of course, I'm taking advantage of listening and learning about what's going on in the place. I mean, if that's one thing you learn, or a consequence, if you will, of living in a dysfunctional family where everybody loves to squabble. I mean, I think my father kind of took this tactic as well. I always had a book in my purse, and I just sit down and open my book and say, okay, when you guys decide where you want to go, what you want to do, let me know. And we're good. This is why everybody was like, oh my God, when I was on my own and ran my own household, it was like, oh my God, why are you so, you know, like you get so much done. I was like, yeah, I'm efficient. I don't have to have anybody sitting there squabbling about what's going to be done. Um, I always say, oh, okay, this gets into one of these off the cuff stories. But anyway, it was in Wales at the sheep farm, and the sheep are going through the gate, and I'm telling them, anybody who's ever been in a sheep farm in Wales is, or any kind of farm, you keep the gates closed, and if somebody says shut the gate, they're coming. You don't ask questions. Shut the gate before the sheep get through. Oh God, I've been telling everybody the gate's open and they're coming for over 20 years. So anyway, just kind of a visual thing of mine. But anyway, so let's get back to Jeffrey Epstein. My God, I've gone on for almost 10 minutes. So let's get back to Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew and this supposedly trade secrets that he shared. These are fucking reports that are floating around. All of this is, in fact, we've got so many. You'll have consulting companies, government agencies, the stuff that you're going to find in the report. I'd like to get a hand on this report, and we can go through it and say, yeah, what exactly here is confidential trade secrets? I mean, without even saying it, as I say, and knowing how they've been going after Prince Andrew, the Me Too people, I'm like, excuse me, I've got lawsuits, standing cause against the feminists. I mean, I'm all over the frickin' map. Everybody wants to shut me up, so I've just been collecting evidence for 20 years and names of people who are involved in immoral and illegal things. The ethics advisor at the IMF said, oh, well, this is illegal. This is immoral. Excuse me, this is illegal, but not immoral. I'm sitting there going, I've heard for my entire life this is immoral, but not illegal. Well, that's the first time they flipped it on me like that. People are freaking crazy. They are all, I promise you, everybody in Washington, you just need a huge psychiatric ward and just close them all up. Okay, so we're going to listen.
Island. Today we're going to look at some emails that give us more insight into what that relationship was like, some of the things they actually did together. This is a picture from Little St. James Island. This is actually real. Here's an email exchange mentioning Stephen Hawking between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The context of this email is that this is when Prince Andrew had been accused by Virginia Giuffre and they were trying to disprove what she said. So that's what the context is here. So Jeffrey Epstein said, you can issue a reward to any of blank friends, acquaintances, family that come forward and help prove her allegations are false. The strongest is the Clinton dinner and the new version of the Virginia Islands that Stephen Hawking participated in. I actually redacted what this says because I'm trying to keep these as viewable to as large an audience as possible. But basically it's suggesting that Stephen Hawking participated in some very unsavory and very illegal activities. And then Ghislaine Maxwell replied, that's just seriously a bad idea. So no, I won't. So Jeffrey Epstein is basically saying, we'll pay anybody you know to basically say the Clinton stuff is not true and the Stephen Hawking stuff is not true. And Ghislaine Maxwell says she doesn't want any.
We'll pay anybody. That's not what they said. They said, well, here's the evidence that this is not true. I mean, as I say, this guy, I like, he's covering a lot of things, but in fact, there was just something I was listening to. I was like, no, oh, it was with Prince Andrew in his interview with, what's her name? Emily Matis or something, the BBC interview, and saying that Prince Andrew, he was like obviously lying and obviously uncomfortable. And I was like, no, not at all. And this is another thing. Okay, first off, body language experts and stuff like that. I mean, I was taught to be, that's one of the things that a socialite learns from very, very, very young. From mothers, these control freak mothers. Yes. So we may not have a certificate or something like these guys, but I can promise you we're as much of an expert, if not more, than any of these body language experts. And also, first off, you also have to realize, say, well, this is, I am fallible. Like I'm not God, I do make mistakes. And another thing is when you're dealing with somebody from another culture and British, I mean, I went to boarding school in England when I was young, when I was 14, 15. And in fact, when I came back, I was very, very British because I was immersed in it. I barely saw my mother sent us all, my sisters and I, off to different boarding schools. And that was kind of, I think, after I read this Tripping the Prom Queen, it explains the power dynamics and the other feminist of mothers and daughters, and how when daughters are becoming teenagers, they become these rivals that they weren't when they were young. So anyway, and then I was completely immersed with the Spanish and the French, and then the Colombians, and I mean completely immersed. That's what I was. The Spanish women hated me because I didn't hang out at the country club with them in Bogota, because I was technically a Spanish trailing spouse in Bogota, even though I'm an American and I was more involved with the French community than the Americans or the Spanish, because my ex is also French. So, cross-cultural. I mean, anybody who's ever known me would be like, oh yeah. Like people always, like many people in the United States will be like, wait a second, you look like a gringa, but you sound maybe Spanish. The Colombians think I sound like a Spaniard, and the Spaniards think I sound like a Colombian. So anyway, and the French are like, well, you got to be maybe Canadian with your accent, but yeah. So I'll challenge any of these experts. So no, I'm sorry, Prince Andrew, his body language in that interview, he came and he was like, I'm just being honest. And the whole thing about his sweating, I say it's true, and we know it's true because who in the frick would make that thing up off the top of their head, would know that it's a real medical condition, because it does sound very bizarre, and I had never heard of it, and I don't think anybody else would ever heard of it. And if you did have it and somebody accused you of sweating all over them, they would say, well, no, that's not possible because I didn't sweat at that point. And you would know that that was a condition. I mean, he didn't, that came in the conversation. He didn't know about that. And she was the one who gave him that information. And to respond like that, I'm like, well, that means he's telling the truth. Because who in the world knows about that medical condition? You would have had to have had it to know about it. And for him to say it like that, it's not like he has some doctor sitting in his ear saying, oh, well, this is what you should come up with some idea. See, little things like that, you go, he's crazy, he's lying. Well, no, actually, is it a thing? Could you have it? Okay, well, I mean, the easiest thing is for Prince Andrew, but these are his medical records, and he does have the right to privacy, so he's not obligated to hand it over. Prince Andrew, can you produce your medical records that said you had this condition? Voila. He's telling the truth. It's as simple as that. Instead of everybody, oh, he's lying, because that's not a thing. It is a thing. It's weird, but it's a thing.
Any part of it. Here's an email sent after Stephen Hawking's passing to Jeffrey Epstein. This individual asked, will you attend his funeral? He was my favorite astronomer of all time, and apparently a naughty one too. So Stephen Hawking must have had a reputation around Jeffrey Epstein and the people he knew. Very interesting that someone would feel the need in such a short email to point that out. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Jeffrey Epstein received an email that said, is Hawking Private Island Submarine real? Jeffrey Epstein simply replied, mine. And the reply to that was, I guess Facebook for once showed real news. Jeffrey Epstein apparently had a submarine. And apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell actually drove the submarine at one point. She sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein that said that she went on her first.
Well, I'm sure he had a submarine. Like Jacques Cousteau's daughter, I mean, Virginia Giuffre accused Jacques Cousteau's daughter of like having sex with her. And I mean, if it was, Virginia Giuffre was like 17, 18 at the time. I mean, this is not the other children bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry. Virginia Giuffre, she was groomed as a sexually abused child, 9 to 11, afterwards CPS, all of that long before she ever met Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Virginia Giuffre, she was a profiteuse, and don't mix apples and oranges, because that really confuses the pot. So anyway, of course he had a submarine, and I'm sorry if I know some guy with a submarine. You want to take a ride in my submarine and go down? I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be cool.
First successful dive with the submarine, asked if he would want to come, and he said no. So not only did they have a submarine, but Ghislaine Maxwell actually piloted the submarine at one point. Now here's an email from 2018 that talks more about that submarine trip that was sent to Jeffrey Epstein. It says, if I were your PR person, I'd be preparing to release some photographs or video of Hawking going into the submarine in or near the USVI, which was, and it said in 2006, right? Which it was in 2006. And a story about a conference organizer and science philanthropist who asked him what he wanted to do that he hadn't done yet, and then the Make-A-Wish type magic of making it happen, that especially if it goes viral, or follow one story, a leak, a comment about how the organizer was...
I mean, if there's some using the submarine to do some transportation of illegal activity, yeah, but let's see if it goes that place. I mean, otherwise, I don't know why you bring up the submarine.
You or the rest of the conference team. But apparently it was well documented that Hawking...
Except just to, because see, one of the things that I'm sick and tired of confusing, they just want to go after, oh, look at how these rich people live, this elite and all the finery and luxury that they live in, and that's proof of wrongdoing, and it's part of the witch hunt, because it's trying to get you to hate that person because look, they're rich. And at the same time, since the 80s in the United States, rich and famous, everybody wants to be rich and famous. This is what everybody's been selling the Kool-Aid and drinking it for what? Going on 50 years. But yet they're using it. That's kind of what bothers me about, oh, well, look at the submarine. Pretty cool. Okay, if you're using it for bad, not so cool. But just the submarine, I think pretty cool.
Actually did go on the submarine ride. Most people just didn't know that it was actually Jeffrey Epstein's. But I'm frankly fascinated by the idea that Jeffrey Epstein had a submarine. That adds a whole new dimension to everything that we look at as it relates to Epstein. Now, in Jeffrey Epstein's usual style, he has so many pictures of himself showing his mouth.
See, I mean, I don't know. We didn't go anywhere with the submarine. You gotta be at a submarine.
Now, I've talked about this in a previous video, that at one point he had an STD that was antibiotic resistant. Or at least he'd been messaging with his doctor about it. And he sends so many pictures over such a long period of time of his mouth and of his face. There's another one down here as well. It seems to be something that really persisted, that he really struggled to get rid of. And I don't know if all of these are related to his STD issues, but they really seem to have plagued him for a long time. As I was going through the files, I ran across some other just odd pictures of Jeffrey Epstein, and it looks like here.
I don't know. I have a hard time feeling sorry for these guys with these STDs. I'm like,
He's doing some kind of photo shoot. So now we're going to dig into a bit of Zorro Ranch, which was one of the estates owned by Jeffrey Epstein in New Mexico. These emails that I'm about to go over have been shared pretty widely, but I found some details that other people haven't covered so much. But I'm going to explain what these are, and then we're going to get into some of the other information we found. As you can see, there's a bunch redacted down here. Once again, I redacted that because what this said was so reprehensible that I'll just give you an idea of what it was, but there's no reason to include it in the video. So here's an email that was sent after Jeffrey Epstein's death, November 21st, 2019. Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there, seen it all, as a former staff at Zorro. The material was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G, both died by strangulation during pretty awful activities. Now, all of these things I redacted down here. These were all file names, and they were reprehensible, awful file names that would basically prove Jeffrey Epstein and other people had been involved in really awful stuff. The names of the files alone were so bad that I had to just cover all of that, but just understand that's the context of this. Now, here's where it starts to get a little bit trickier. Now, you'll notice at the bottom it says, please arrange for 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. Eastern today, at this address. So obviously it sounds like this could be somebody that wants money. Therefore, whether or not this should be taken seriously is a real question. However, real investigations have been opened up about the ranch at this point. So it sounds like they will actually be looking at the property. They are going to be investigating the property. So somebody in law enforcement finds this.
They are. I mean, I'm not really sure if that's what I'm going to
reference what Jeffrey Epstein did.
What this has to do with Prince Andrew.
To this, because why on earth would you redact anything that Jeffrey Epstein's been accused of? Obviously, these files have been over-redacted in many ways, but why on earth would they redact something that Jeffrey Epstein's been accused of unless they have a reason to? It was such a puzzling and specific...
Well, of course, we all know.
Jeffrey,
okay.
I arrive at Zorro tonight at midnight. Something is missing from my closet at my home in Zorro. I want to look harder for this piece before being concerned. Mono has helped me look, but to no avail. My home is always locked according to Bryce and Mono, and I believe Bryce and Mono were the people who kept up with the ranch. This piece has been in my closet for over 5 years with no problems in the past. I will tell you more in person. Thank you. Now, this email is so cryptic, we don't even have any frame of reference for what it's referring to, other than he didn't even want to get close to telling you what it was. There's nothing that you could infer what this was based on the email, which to me always says that's definitely worth looking into more. Because if someone is this, that they're A, going to be concerned, and B, don't want to talk about what it is, and are going to tell them more in person, that seems extremely significant. So these are the kinds of things that happen at Zorro Ranch. We see these kinds of cryptic...
Okay, yeah. I mean, that... And Larry, I'm wondering if that's Larry Summers. Larry Summers is in there, and that's...
big emails. Have you ever Googled your own name or email address? Before I had Aura.
That's somebody who needs to be investigated. That's what is everybody's... Prince Andrew is the decoy.
I did, and wow. It was my full name, my old address, phone number, all sorts of information.
And also, Prince Andrew has the power and the authority to step up to the plate and take charge.
I did not want people to have. That's why I started using Aura, today's sponsor. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your number or why your inbox is drowning,
let's okay.
Mr. Epstein, I'm writing to let you know that I will no longer be working for you as of today, 6/18/12. It's time that I walk away from my job for you. I have always enjoyed my job and all aspects of it. I feel that I was an asset here for you and your guests. Unfortunately, there are other people that think differently, and they have done their best to make sure I do not further myself here for you. I can no longer do my job at 100% with the controlling, deceitful, demanding, and distrusting ways that are put in front of me daily. It has mentally and physically exhausted me and makes me sick. So I will walk away from here so that these people can control your ranch as you see fit. There are plenty of times people are affected by the demands of work, but to say it has mentally and physically exhausted me and made me sick, I think is a strong statement about what it must be like working at Zorro Ranch. Another theme we're going to be looking at as we explore Zorro Ranch are people burying things. This is a reference to that Jeffrey Epstein stated, "Why do we plant our dead?" You got a response, "To push up the daisies." And then Jeffrey Epstein replied, "Like plasmosis, they've trained us to get water and urinate and then produce fertilizer." And then has a smiley face. Defecation produces a reward response in many, and then a smiley face with a wink. Ugh, okay, so
yeah.
They engage in the best versions of deceptions, vines, strangle their neighbors. Tea has a hormonal effect on women. Wild. So somehow even talking about flowers and plants, Jeffrey...
Yeah, this is, some really...
Context to this, maybe that makes sense, but it doesn't sound good.
There's ample evidence of what's, there was stuff going on at Zorro Ranch, the island in St. Thomas. Oh, that gets me, I can show that right now, actually. I've been looking, this gentleman just, accused Candace Owens. Let's see. Is this, yeah, this is Candace's. Is this, yeah, this is, hold on. Oops, there she is. Yeah, so this is Candace Owens' family, and they accused, I think it was her uncle of, and I don't even, there's this senator, that's the other Blyden family, this Senator Marvin Blyden. So, and I don't know, I mean, I don't even really know, if he's really accused of any wrongdoing or something, but this is the type of thing, this guy, he pulls out, well, oh, it's the Blyden family. I was like, well, yeah, Senator Blyden, I was like, well, yeah, I had done the family tree for Candace, and effectively in the Virgin Islands, which is where St. Thomas, and which is where little St. James was, of the Epstein Island. So that's under the jurisdiction of that island with Candace family there. But I mean, they've been there for generations. They came as slaves, just like with Candace's family in the Carolinas. So I looked back into that, but it doesn't look at the moment, it doesn't look like it's the same. Of course, if we go back to the slave, this is what I'm looking at now, how far back I did find some of the slaves back, would be the late 1800s. So anyway, just pulling out, oh, it's the Biden name. Well, it's the same family. Well, eventually, yes, it's like with the Rothschild and Erica Kirk and the Fronsby and the Rothstein, which has a Rothschild in it. Well, yeah, one branch, but not the other branch. Effectively, if you go, and then that they go to Russia, which is not the same as the German. Now, if you go back in history, I'm sure we'll find a common ancestor. But, I mean, like, yeah, like, oh, yeah, okay, 20 generations ago. Okay, well, let's bring it up a little bit more to modern times. But anyway, you see what I'm saying. So people just pull things out of a hat without checking.
For sure. Jeffrey Epstein talking about her father leaving, and then her referencing, you can't compare murdering someone with doing mistakes. Maybe this is not meant to be literal, but it's puzzling how it's all phrased here. Now, there are questions about whether or not there are bodies buried at Zorro Ranch. Jeffrey Epstein had a tendency to bury everything. We're going to go through a few emails that show that. And this, he says, Chris, put the concrete in the large dump area behind the generators. And then he gets a reply, hey, boss man, Chris asked if he can please bury the heli rubbish at the ruins since he have to make a hole and it's closer. If yes, could he have the heli completed If yes, he could have the heli completed 100% today. So it sounds like they bury their trash, which is a strange thing to do. I would think somebody with those kinds of means and that kind of money would just have it hauled off. Maybe people that are super rich bury trash around their property, but that sounds incredibly strange. But he does it quite a lot.
Well, I mean, it could be strange, or it also could be some sort of composting that they're doing. I don't know. Anybody experts there in composting and how much you might do composting? I mean, I'm just saying that's not, in a court of law, if you have something like that, that's not necessarily proof of wrongdoing. I mean, this is the only thing that I'm saying. You if you're looking at evidence, you want due process, you want this, as I say, in a court of law, any kind of evidence that you're coming along the way, is this damaging, or you know, can we, is there a logical explanation and an innocent law explanation for this thing? Because you don't want to, this is what due process is about.
A lot, actually. Here's another one. On the top of the hill still has old generators and is a junkyard. No reason not to bury half of that stuff. Here's another strange email exchange about burying things. This is about burying a dog, but you'll see why I say strange after we get through this. So this is from March 28th of 2010. The date is very important. This is March of 2010. So he was sent an email by one of the people who works at the ranch that said, sad news, Duke passed away in his sleep yesterday afternoon. Mono found him in his kennel when he was doing the evening feed. I assume that he's to be buried next to Max on the point out toward the lodge. So it seems pretty clear to say, we'll bury him next to the other dog. I do think it's strange that Jeffrey Epstein's follow-up email, because I looked in sequence on what all he said that day, was, didn't we have fun? But as we keep going, Ghislaine Maxwell replied, I heard he had lung cancer. That's sad. He was a wonderful dog. I'm in California, named a new species of fish yesterday. I'm going to send it to you. We found it whilst looking for blank. Hope all is okay. So it's not exactly surprising that someone like Maxwell doesn't have great empathy. Oh, it's so sad the dog passed away. So anyway, we named a new species of fish. It's a really weird interaction. But what's stranger is what comes in a couple of months. Now, in the next email, she also said, yes, please bury him there. Thank you. But then let's go to July 30th. So the last email was from March. This email is from July. So let me understand. Your butler complains that he and his wife, a maid, had to clean up after a sick dog and actually tells you to have your girlfriend clean instead. In response, you joke and take his side instead of telling him the dog, which is more important than him, well, these are just lovely people, is unfortunately very sick. Cleaning is part of their job, and warning him never to speak about your girlfriend this way again. He often talks about cleaning stains after Max, but somehow he feels okay to complain when it comes to my dog. Since they're having to clean up stains after Max, it sounds like Max is actually very much still alive as of July of 2010, even though earlier they said to bury Duke next to Max near the lodge. Seems puzzling to me. But if they are going to investigate this property, this gives us a place to start. If they're going to investigate where there might be bodies buried, over next to the lodge might be a good place to look. The worst case scenario is that there are dogs buried there. But if they are actually...
Okay, I don't know. They might, see again, well, they might have gotten another dog. A lot of people do that, give it the same name as the other dog. Or maybe she's talking about like something in the past. I'm not... Okay, let's skip forward. See what we get to.
2003 to be on a shadow commission about 9/11. How was she connected to all of this? What did she know? Who did she know? This truly is one of the more peculiar emails I've run across. Now we're going to explore the relationship.
Okay, so this is peculiar about Ghislaine Maxwell and really her being on this shadow government of the investigation. They were putting something together about her maybe investigating it. The 9/11 at the World Trade Center attack. So that is strange, and that it's looking more and more like Ghislaine Maxwell. And then her sister was just at the World Economic Forum. So her sister's kind of doing the same stuff as Ghislaine was before in the international development community. This is why, Prince Andrew, as the rep of the international trade of rep of Britain, it's not unusual, him being, oh, you spend all this money to go to the World Economic Forum. I even told the guys at the IMF and World Bank, I said, that's not on him. That's not his fault. That's the fault of the goddamn people organizing that. And I've been bitching for decades about saying when the taxpayers, and people go, oh, that's not American. I'm talking global taxpayers, because that's who's footing the bill for this. When they find out that the people at the IMF and the World Bank and the UN are party hardy with all of the taxpayers' money, like you can't believe, it's grotesque. They're going to be pissed off. I mean, those guys at the international community, they're in competition with Congress. It is grotesque. And everybody talks about GDP in DC. Whoa. Yeah. Okay. That's it's into the monetary stuff. You can look at my videos on that stuff. Okay. So now here, ooh, we are 35 minutes into this. Maybe I'll have to slice this down into two. Um, and get into the accusations against Prince Andrew.
Between former Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, for those of you who don't know, who aren't following this closely, he was arrested recently because he was the UK trade envoy between 2001 and 2011, and he shared government secrets with Jeffrey Epstein. That was the issue. Now, there was all of this strange sexual issues that he had, but that's not what the arrest was about. This was about the trade secrets that he gave to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to show you in the Epstein files the type of information.
Yeah, all these strange sexual. No, there are two photos. There we saw that. He's leaning over a woman who's completely clothed. And as I say, I have a bad back and I have gotten on the floor. And if somebody took a photo, it'd be like, what's this lady doing with her knees on her chest? And, showing, I mean, of course, I'm going to do that with friends or whatever. But of course, somebody could I don't think that ever happened. But what I'm saying it's totally innocent. So unless you can show me a photo of inappropriate behavior, but just because Prince Andrew is in a photo with some women who are fully clothed, I mean, effectively, this with him leaning over a woman is a little bit more damaging than him standing next to Virginia Giuffre. It's well established that Prince Andrew knew Jeffrey Epstein, was at his mansion, was in the same, places as Virginia Giuffre would have been. And that's with Lisa Phillips. It's the same thing. She said that when she was at Epstein Island, and this was apparently she was just there the one time, and she was raped by Epstein. Um, Epstein was like, "Oh, you want to meet a prince?" And the prince, she doesn't actually say it was Prince Andrew. She says, Jeffrey Epstein says, "You want to meet a prince?" As this man comes out of the swimming pool, wraps a towel around him, and comes up and says, "Hi, how you doing?" And then he leaves, and that's all she sees of him. Now, first, she doesn't establish exactly which prince she's talking about or even describe him. And also, that is absolutely no indication of wrongdoing.
That he shared.
As I say, if I'm going to split this down into two, I just went over here. You can listen to the first part of this thing about due process and the importance of evidence. And explaining, well, here this is damaging evidence, and look at the different pieces of evidence that are damaging, instead of just these witch hunts of, oh well, I don't like him, he's rich, I don't like him, even though I want to be rich myself. I hate the rich.
Now, obviously, we don't have copies of the documents because these would be sensitive, but this is an email that was forwarded to Jeffrey Epstein by...
Obviously, we don't have the copy of the documents because they would be sensitive. That is exactly where I am challenging this guy and anybody. No, show me these documents. I can promise you they're not sensitive. Or if there is something that's sensitive in there, explain exactly what it is. But don't just say, oh, see, we've got these documents attached that Prince Andrew was sent. And we don't even, oh, here it's from the Duke. So we don't know who sent this to Prince Andrew. Like, is this some secretary over at the W Economic Forum? Here's the here's the report on da 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 da. We did this all the time. These are not sensitive or confidential documents. Most probably not. Could be, but I highly, 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 highly doubt it. These guys that get these things all the time, and they would send them forward. Like, As I say, at this World Economic Forum, here's the report on Southeast Asia. Here's the report on Central America, whatever. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. They say the same bullshit all the time.
Andrew. This email was received by Andrew at 1400 hours and 57 minutes and forwarded 5 minutes later to Jeffrey Epstein. And you may wonder, well, what's so important about this? Who cares about visit logs and visit reports? This was the value that Andrew had to Epstein. He was able to provide him with government secrets, and Andrew clearly didn't think twice about it. Forwarded him an email 5 minutes after he got it. This was not the stuff that he was focused on. He was focused on all of the girls and all of the women and all of that stuff. That's what Andrew wanted. He was so focused on that, he didn't even think twice to share these secrets with Epstein. So the question is, why would Epstein want this? What are visit reports going to do? What are trade envoy secrets going to give him? Well, given that he has a tendency to blackmail people, given the fact that he likes information on people, this can give him the kind of information that gives him leverage. He can find out people's financial information, who went where, what different people that are associated with the government are up to. This gives him information which gives Jeffrey Epstein power. So this is precisely why...
How is he making this assumption or conclusion, if you will? He has no idea. He said, we don't know what's in the reports. We can't make any conclusion. I'm telling you, saying this, I'm like, as I say, this is one of these international development community reports for one of these meetings that are prepared that everybody's sending to each other. You know, we have no proof that any conclusions that he's making here have any validity. I mean, this is defamation, and this is irresponsible reporting and investigation into what you're accusing somebody of criminal activity, because what they're accusing him of is criminal activity.
Jeffrey Epstein had a relationship with former Prince Andrew. It's why Ghislaine Maxwell brought him to Jeffrey Epstein, because that's what, when you think about what Maxwell did, what her role was, it was to find people and bring them to Epstein for whatever his needs were. So whether it was people for sex or whether it was people that were in government, that were connected, that were billionaires, that were rich and powerful, Ghislaine Maxwell's role was to bring people to Jeffrey Epstein. And that's exactly what she did. As Andrew was...
Okay, now wait a second. Bring people to Jeffrey Epstein. There's one thing about that, Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah, I agree. She's the socialite, and it's to connect people together. I mean, even one time I remember I'm in Bogota, and this is with the French community there, and somebody came over to me and they said, oh, it was a newcomer in the city, and they said, oh, somebody said to come and ask you about where something was, that you knew where everything, and everybody and everything in this city and where to find everything. And I just kind of, chuckled under my breath. And I said, oh, well, what are you interested? What do you do? What are your interests? And yeah, I'll tell you. And I mean, like in downtown Washington where I work. I mean, also this is one of the things that you do as a waiter, or I mean, I'm a cashier. They want to keep me at minimum wage. They want to shut me up. See, this is intimidation, but I'm always like, oh, okay. Now you've got to see, okay, the Smithsonian, and I'm learning some good stuff. Okay, so the American Indian Museum, definitely a must for, it'll be real quick. These are my spiel. And I just learned, because I was always like, the food, very interesting recipes, but I'm not, museums, I'm usually like, stay away from museum food because it's overpriced and it's not, great. But I've told them they have some very good recipes there. But somebody did tell me it is good. Of course, it's a museum price food, so you're not going to get cheap. But definitely American Indian Museum in Washington, eat there. The Botanical Gardens just is next there. That's the bottom of the capital. Anyway, yeah, so that's the job of the socialite. Ghislaine Maxwell, that's her job. Now, going out to find things for Jeffrey in procuring young girls is not the same thing as putting together a party and the invite list and who's going to be. I mean, this is what Lady Harvey, the point that she made with Piers Morgan on the interview. And oh God, Piers Morgan, he looks so nervous, and he is nervous because she said, you're in the Epstein files when she was talking to Piers Morgan. And she's right. She's like, excuse me, like if you're not in the Epstein files, it means that you were a nobody. Because if you were anybody, if you're on the in list of anybody who's anybody from the 80s on to, I mean, this is why Cornelia Guest, she's only mentioned as Deb of the Decade, and she's moved down to Dallas. First went to Connecticut, but then she moved to Dallas because she's a nobody now these days. Where her mother and the Capote Swans, CZ Guest, and all of the other Capote Swans, not only ruled New York, but after World War II, as the series on the Capote Swans, they were going to rule the world. They became high society, and they opened the doors to what you got today and the whoring and pimping that's going on in that town. Um, so this is just to deviate attention away from the true problem of cleaning up New York and that's been going on since the 1800s with the robber barons, and clean up DC.
It was all focused on all of the girls. We're going to go through some of this. That was never the interesting connection for Jeffrey Epstein. He wanted information and he got it. And who knows what he did with it. Without going into great detail with all of these, I'll sort of summarize what some of these emails were. There were a lot of panicked emails from former Prince Andrew saying, we need to get rid of
panicked emails. I want to see the proof of panic.
This. We can't have this. He was one that was really anxious. And Epstein and Maxwell kept going,
okay, we can't have this. This is what we sent to MOS. We will see the photograph when they send it. Okay. I don't see any panic there. We have sent the following notice. Oh, this is again. They have just finally agreed to send a copy of the photograph to me, notwithstanding the fact that we categorically deny the allegation put by blank. I will forward the photograph to you in something as I got it in at, sorry, this is really blurry, and have opportunity to view it. Well, okay, so he's going to go into, is this original or not? And this is some admission of guilt because they're insisting we need the original. No, that's like standard operating procedure. Anybody who would say, well, you don't need the original. I mean, I'm like, excuse me, are you fed slop or what? Of course, any competent lawyer, anybody who is being accused of something, and especially like, well, I don't know, and believe me, somebody like Prince Andrew, has spent his life with people saying, can I have a photo with you? Can I have a photo with you? Can I have a photo with you? I have never felt sorry for all of the rich and famous. I mean, most of my life, well, not since I've been back to DC and when I was a student at DC, but I mean, when you're a student, who cares? You got a crappy apartment, but you're no longer living under the roof of your parents. So yeah, the places that I've been living since I've been back is crappier than when I was a student. So anyway, but at least I'm not on the street as everybody's been trying to do. Yeah. So anyway, this whole thing of, well, him insisting that he needs an original to be able to, okay, let's see if this thing is doctored. I don't know. And also, as I keep on pointing out, even if it is an original photo, where is the tort? Where is the criminal activity? Where is any evidence of wrongdoing? That photo proves absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. We're going to make things go away. That was what the content of a lot of emails were once the Virginia Dufresne story broke. Now here's
going to make things go away. No, somebody says, well, you knew him. This is a photo of you. Well, no. I mean, make things go away. See, this is the type of rhetoric, and as I say, I most of the stuff that he's come forward with, I like, but it's particularly the men who are the most vicious in attacking Prince Andrew. Now, this gets into managerialism and the the lower classes constantly wanting to overthrow the upper class, and this gets, I mean, you can see this with the book White Trash, 400 years American history, 400 years of untold American history, something like that. So but then also that's what I have included in with looking at with the feudal system before you had the industrial system, the feudal lords. That's how we had the system, the democratic system that was started under the Magna Carta in England, and which is what ours is based. And, you know, if you're going to clean up a system, I mean, I am my father's daughter. You know, I'm going to go into the roots, the very, 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 you know, the foundations of everything in the history of this, going back hundreds of years. I mean, my father always said, we've been fighting all of this since Queen Elizabeth I and the British Crown and Thomas Wilcox, 1571, Admonitions to Parliament, 1666, another Thomas Wilcox, A Choice Drop of Honey from the Rock Christ. And that's the beginning of the Puritan movement. And then all of the Puritans who left seeking religious and freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, all of those things are connected in the New World. Like Candace, what she's concentrating on is the South and the Jamestowns, and these were charters, and they were, you know, corporations made to make money. But that was not what the Puritans and the Quakers were in Massachusetts in the North. So, as I say, this is all the see, to say that the men are worse than the women and attacking Andrew is I think an overstatement, because the women, they're vicious. But yeah, this is just a power. We're going to depose Prince Andrew. We don't like him, so we're going to go on a witch hunt. There's no proof. I'm like, bring me some really damaging proof, and I'll say okay. But this is what due process is about.
An email from Jeffrey Epstein where they're talking about Andrew. Without going into too much context, this is the more important part, is what I'm going to read at the end. His phones are all wired, and most emails except a BlackBerry account are tagged. He doesn't know that either. So who they were tagged by, who they were wired by, it could have very well been Jeffrey Epstein himself. He collects information on people. There's no shortage of data that shows that is precisely what he did. Andrew would be the exact kind of person who he would want to collect information on. He also wrote an email that said, careful, there's a Daily Mail.
Yeah, he would want to collect information on Andrew, but he wasn't able to collect information. Sending Andrew a report on Southeast Asia is not collecting information on Andrew. It's like, here's what's going on. And one of them, I think, was like Afghanistan and what with the like mines, mineral deposits, and, you know, metals and things, a report after the war. I'm like, excuse me, that's going to be in the development community, you know, reports that are people going back, well, okay, now we got to rebuild the country now that you guys have bombed it. That's a hell of a lot better than Trump putting, you know, luxury real estate and tourist traps on Gaza. I mean, that's some wicked ass shit.
Rat close to him, not her. He is unaware. So he's claiming to have all sorts of information about what's going on with Andrew, whether his phones are wired, the people that are near him that are rats, all of these kinds of information. So how it is that he would have that information and the royal would not. That's where it starts to get really interesting. Now, here's an old email from Andrew. He would send it under the name The Invisible Man, and they were oftentimes just gushing with expressions of how much he just loved Ghislaine Maxwell. I so look forward to catching up with you before you disappear to some exotic place, and please don't catch anything nasty on your travel. Masses of love and thanks, Andrew. Now, here's an extremely consequential email from Ghislaine Maxwell. Andrew had had a picture with Virginia Dufresne, and that was used by her to say, look, I was actually there. I actually met with Andrew, and he actually did what I claimed. Whereas Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, everybody would say that picture, we can't find the original, it doesn't exist, therefore it must be a fake. They would talk about that over and over and over again. But right here, we know for the first time with real confirmation, this is an email that Ghislaine Maxwell sent to herself. In 2001, I was in London when blank met a number of friends of mine, including Prince Andrew. A photograph was taken, as I imagine she wanted to show it to friends and family. So she knew there was a photograph taken. These are the kinds of things that Maxwell and Epstein probably did in order to blackmail people. So this picture was probably Maxwell's idea. It backfired spectacularly, but they always talked about how the original can't be found, so it must be a fake. And I've always believed that they had the original and got rid of it. And that's why they would always go to that point, because they way overemphasize.
Well, I don't know. See, she's doing a draft. Now, this gets into, he was looking at Erica Kirk earlier and Erica Fronsby, those different, and everybody's looking at her. But the thing that everybody has to understand, it was so funny. He was doing a comparison between Sarah Huckabee and Erica Kirk and going, these could be like clones, like they're the same mold. I'm like, of course they are. This is the problem. These girls have no personality. They've been, indoctrinated from birth. Now, you got your religious cult groups or your non-religious. I mean, Cornelia Guest, I don't think religion, they may have gone to church. Cornelia Guest, the thing is she's went to Foxcroft, as did I. So I was in England for my freshman year of high school. And then my sophomore year, I was at Foxcroft. Now, Cornelia was there for her sophomore year, but then she didn't come back her junior year. And I even remember it. I was like, what do you mean she's dropping out of, like her transferring, going to another school, although I don't think she would have done that. Foxcroft is very robber baron heiresses. So I couldn't see her doing that. But the thing is dropping out. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, parents are going to let her do that? I don't really know who Cornelia, people are like, oh, Cornelia Guest. I'm like, well, who's that? I just never, one of the things about growing up around all of these people, I have to admit, when I was at Cobham and Lady Hetty, she told me it's not Hetty, it's Hetty Bathurst. I was like, oh, cool, you got a title. I thought that was cool. So, but growing up with all of these people, they're people. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and believe me, they come up. Most of them come from really screwed up families, really screwed up. It's amazing. Well, no, it's why the world is so screwed up, because they're pretty screwed up. So that's why, all of these people who want to go after the rich and the famous, just because they're rich and famous. And I mean, some kid, oh my God, yesterday he's telling me, and he's from, what was he telling me? From Gaza. But his father was an American soldier. I was like, oh, okay. So your mom, I'm thinking, oh, because she's like, oh, we just need to exterminate all of the wealthy. I'm like, oh, great. Your mom gets herself knocked up by some American so she can come to the United States, have a kid here who's going to grow up and says we should exterminate all of the ruling elite because he wants, a revolution. So I'm like, excuse me. I was like, getting rid of this group, it'll just give rise to another. Because actually, probably, we see that. This is why I am defending the and kicking butt and trying to get the royalty in Europe, the few who still have some power and authority, and the others who have been deposed. Get your shit together and say, step in and start changing the morals and the values and the principles, and say, no, we're going to start looking into all of this and we're going to start applying the law. This is, I was listening to, it was the butler, some guy over at Buckingham Palace who's criticizing Prince Andrew and saying, "Oh, Queen Elizabeth, she was such a wonderful queen, and Prince Andrew is destroying everything that she accomplished." I was like, "Oh, ding, ding, ding. Okay, now I get it why this guy's going after Prince Andrew. Queen Elizabeth, she she was a horrible queen. History will prove me right. I mean, the crap that's going on in England is because she wanted to be a having it all anti-feminist. See, this is the problem. Candace Owens is one of these having it all anti-feminist. She started as a having it all feminist and she flipped, but she's still, this is the same thing. Phyllis Schlafly. They're all following the role model of Phyllis Schlafly. They even, when Phyllis Schlafly came to Washington and she's like, the trad wife, this is in the 70s, I think she started. Um, they're like, Phyllis Schlafly, why don't you go home and take care of your husband and your kids? Like, what are you doing here? You're a hypocrite. And they are all, I mean, I contacted them. I'm like, excuse me, you guys want to start, okay, the whole Christian stuff we're gonna have to relook at, because I'm not, I'm not gonna sit there going, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, and then wave your Bible around. Yeah, that's not what I'm about, and that's why they don't like me. But the trad wife, that's another thing. Beat the submissive trad wife. I'm like, no, 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 no. You little trad wives, you get there over there on the PTA, you start bitching and screaming over there. You come up with me to Capitol Hill, and we're gonna kick ass with those people and those snot-nosed brats keep on giving us attitude. Well, their moms are going to hear from us, and we're going to go and talk to the senator's wife and tell her that he better get rid of all the little snot-nosed brats who he has working in his office. And as of yesterday, say, that's the trad wife that they don't want. And anybody who knows me, and I can, believe me, I think everybody who knows me from Bogota can attest that that's the trad wife that I am, and that's what I am promoting, and that's why nobody likes me. And see, this is why this is all smokes and mirrors with Prince Andrew. Until you can prove me wrong, this is a witch hunt, because there is ample reason to want to go after Prince Andrew. So that's what I'm working under, that assumption, until somebody can show me some real proof that, he is guilty of some sort of wrongdoing. Now, the whole thing that him saying to Epstein, have a good trip, don't catch anything on your way. I'm like, well, I mean, he's no different, as everybody says. Oh yeah, I mean, everybody knew Epstein was chasing skirts all over the place and that he liked them young. So that's no news. It's not very good on the ops, but it does not indicate any wrongdoing. I mean, this is one of my things, and this gets in with Patriot Housewife of the podcaster. I'm like, everybody in New York, Palm Beach, everybody knows what's going on. Are you kidding? I was always, in my communities, I'm like, excuse me, you shouldn't be doing that. That's very immoral. I always call it the Gladys Kravitz of Bewitched. That was Bewitched next door neighbor who was always spying on Bewitched and going home. Abner, Abner. That's the trad wife we need. Oh, she was a pain in the ass. But I was like, oh God, Bewitched. I wish I could clean up a house that quick and that easily.
that. And here's an email exchange between Andrew and Epstein. I'm just departing Scotland. Should be down by 1800. I'll ring you when I get down if you can give me a number to ring. Alternatively, we could have dinner at Buckingham Palace and lots of privacy. So he was actually suggesting in 2010 that after the 2008 issues, after Epstein had been in prison, he was saying that Epstein should come to Buckingham Palace, which is crazy. Here's another old email from 2001 from Andrew to Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm up here in Balmoral summer camp for the royal family. So he goes on to basically say a number of things. But the important part is he says, how's LA? Have you found me some new and appropriate friends? Andrew is so sidetracked by all of the fun things he gets to do with Epstein and Maxwell that he doesn't understand how he's being used. So the reasons he was arrested, the things that he did, those would be a long distant thought. It probably never even crossed his mind that those would be issues that he could get in trouble for. These would be.
Well, he hasn't proved any wrongdoing. Again, this document on Southeast Asia, that's the first I had heard of. The other thing that I had read in a news report was the Afghan report about the mines, mineral deposits in the country. That's a report that would be sent to somebody like Prince Andrew, and he would be sharing, okay, we're going to be developing, of course, the UK is going to be involved in some sort of development in Afghanistan afterwards. What we need to stop doing is bombing these places, killing these people, having refugees crises. Oh, and then we're going to rebuild. No, let's stop bombing everybody and killing everybody, and my father, he was always like, clean water, clean water. Tell them in Washington, one of the big things is clean water. I'm like, I know, Dad. And he's like, you got to make allies. You got to work, find people to work together. I'm like, I know, there is nobody. I mean, that was one of the hardest things for me was his death. But I'm kind of like, I'm glad he's not around to see what's going on. Oh, maybe he does. Who knows? I don't know. Is he? This is the thing that I'm always kind of like, okay, I can believe in reincarnation, but then what? Yeah, there's a lot of questions there.
Be the kinds of things that he would have focused on. These would have been the issues that he thought were so important that he could get embarrassed by. But he was used. Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell used him to get exactly what they wanted, which they then probably used to blackmail people, get some kind of influence. There could have been economic benefits to all of it, but they had their own reasons to collect this information from him, and it worked. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the stranger files we continue to find. Clearly, Jeffrey Epstein used former Prince Andrew for trade secrets. That's what he wanted out of him. There was never a friendship, and I'm curious if...
This again, he used Prince Andrew for trade. The secret is the problem that I have there. Where is evidence of any kind of trade secret? Some freaking report on Southeast Asia. Let's see the report. What's in this report that is so confidential or so damaging and, trading secrets of the UK with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein, who is involved, who is in the middle of international development. I mean, that's what Jeffrey Epstein did. He played the socialite. He connected everybody. Again, as Lady Harvey said, if you were anybody, anybody amongst everybody, the rich and famous, you're going to be in there. And I'm sick and tired of, God, I've been targeted in these witch hunts for the past 20 years. Of course I'm sick and tired of it. So anyway, where's the proof? This, again, this Dr. G explains, he's gone through a lot of the things that have been informative. I don't always agree with him. I think he's jumping to conclusions sometimes. But of course that, you're always going to have some difference of agreement. I mean, I'm sure there are some people, many people who disagree with me. So anyway, there you go. I was just pissed off. But anyway, what I'm going to do is, because with the war in Iran, this gets into Amal Clooney and how the Muslim women have been coming since the 80s. Muslim women coming to the United States have been put on, given book deals if they're going to complain and say, "Oh, I had this horrible husband who was just so horrible and he beat me and I fled and I've come to this wonderful country where I can live my dreams and, the whole kit and caboodle." They're given book deals, open up multi-million dollar nonprofits, no problem. Amal Clooney is one of these. I mean, okay, her parents came from Lebanon. Um, but this is the same, she has really the same background and profile of Michelle Hussein, who is a celebrity journalist in England. So, this is another thing. All of these, whether it be the poor immigrants or the wealthy educated immigrants, um, they need to be held to account. I mean, they've been coming here and, I want privilege. I want entitled. I mean, they are so entitled, it's not even funny. If we got a problem with the WASPs and the Catholics, I know, but when people were like, white Americans, white, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Amongst the whites. And also, would you guys please stop saying that because like Indians, the Muslims, most of them are white. Anybody who is from that India, like Middle East, that's all still white people. Okay, they're a bit browner than in the north. That's Starkey Farmstead was saying this the other day. She's like, yeah, and I agree. It's like, yeah, Jesus was brown, and I don't think he had blue eyes. Just, uh, where he was born, that's highly improbable. Like, let's be historically correct. It drives me crazy when I see these, black lords from the 1700s in England in these films. Like, can you imagine when we stuck some blonde, blue-eyed girl in the middle of Africa in the 1500s and the Amazon warrior? I would be like, people are crazy. That's that's so historically incorrect. Let's get our facts straight, please. So that's it.